Okay, I think I'm back on. I'm so excited. I think it worked. So our internet is back in effect. Now, if we lose it again, check back and hopefully I will continue because I don't give up. It takes a lot for me to give up. Let's start over. So if anyone's joining us, they can know what the heck is going on. Let's remove some things here. We'll start over. We'll get a little sisters in crime action going on. We'll get a little intro. I don't think we need our 1 minute warm up. We can just play our theme song. And here we go. Okay, awesome. Okay, so I am solo tonight. I'm flying solo because I have my sisters in crime are not able to join me. It looks like we have Cassie, who is busy at home doing home things, and she's unable to take a break. I have Casey on the road, traveling, and so I'm solo, but that's okay. I'll just be lonely. I'll just be all by myself, talking true crime. Tonight, we're going to talk about Scott Peterson, and I look forward to anybody in the chat chiming in. Also, if you want me to drop a link and you want to come up to the panel and share your thoughts, I welcome that as well. So let me see. Last time when I cut the stream, I was trying to upload or not upload. I was trying to connect to share my screen, and it would not work for me. So let me quickly. We're going to go to some screens that I have. Let's see. This is Scott Peterson. Oh, let's see here. Okay. Tonight. Okay, so here's Laci Peterson. May she rest in peace. This is the victim. The main, and we never want to lose sight of the victims. We do spend a lot of time focusing on the criminal and the criminal aspect of each of these cases. And the victim does get overlooked sometimes. And that is definitely not our intention. Unfortunately, it's the nature of the beast, you know. It's the complexity, the solving all, you know, it's the evidence gathering, it's the investigation and the research that does, you know, take over the screens and take over everything that's written is written about, you know, from the perspective of sleuthing and finding the evidence, and the court cases all surround, you know, the conviction and how to get the conviction. So we're just going to take a moment and recognize Laci tonight, and what a beautiful soul wrapped in a beautiful package. So I believe her maiden name is Rocha, Rocha. So Laci Rocha, or Rocha. I think it's Rocha, but I'm not sure. Let's see what the next one. So she was 27 years old, and her husband, Scott Peterson, was convicted of her murder in 2004. Let's see the next slide I have. They originated out of Modesto, California, and they were newlyweds. And she was pregnant with her first child, Conner. When she went missing, she was 8 months pregnant. So tonight we will discuss the basically just give a little bit of an overview of, that they were from Modesto, that they had close family ties. They lived in a modest home, but it was, for all intents and purposes, it was a nice home for a newlywed couple. He worked as a fertilizer salesman. Both of them graduated with bachelor's degrees from Cal Poly, which is a well-known university here in California, in Southern California, in San Luis Obispo. And, they did well for themselves. They were ready to, or at least from Laci's perspective, they were ready to start a family. It looked like on the outside, things looked really good. Let's see, December 24th. So on Christmas Eve, Laci was reported missing. Let's take a look here. Let me see. Where was I? I was going over some things and I lost all my windows. Let's see. Okay, so it was on Christmas Eve in 2002, around the early morning hours. 8 months pregnant Laci was reported missing in Modesto, California. Scott had told authorities that he last saw Laci that morning when he left home to go fishing at Berkeley Marina, roughly 90 miles from Modesto. Laci's stepfather, I believe Ron is Laci's stepfather, Ron Grunsky, I think, and Scott both contacted police, they made separate calls to report her missing. And Laci's mother reported that she had last spoken to Laci the previous evening. Law enforcement initiated a large-scale search using ground teams, canines, helicopters, water searches, and immediately classifying the disappearance as highly concerning due to her condition and circumstances, because of her pregnancy. And because she didn't live a high-risk life. She didn't associate with, the criminal element. She wasn't addicted to drugs. She wasn't living, a really risky existence. She, I believe she was not working at this time. So she was staying home. She was getting ready to have a baby. So let me see here. Let's see what our next slide has. So, and this slide shows, it's her pre-pregnancy, I believe. And then the picture where she is wearing the red outfit. I believe that she is pregnant and she's at a Christmas party, I think, or a Thanksgiving party. I'm not sure, but she does look festive and beautiful. Let's see. Oh, so here we have Amber Frey, who is the affair partner aka mistress, aka whatever else you want to put in that word that just designates that he was having an affair, admittedly at one point during the investigation or during the search. But at first, the detectives that were in charge of, the investigation and the search for Laci, they reported, after the fact that, man, they couldn't find anything on him, that he looked squeaky clean. He, he was helpful to the neighbors. He had a good image, a good reputation. He was a good student in college. There wasn't anything that really indicated that there was a red flag. So, anyway, very, very interesting. I'm going to share my screen. We might jump around a little bit just because I have my situation, considering I don't have a lot of people I don't have anybody to talk to. So because of my sisters being missing from the live stream, I don't think I'm going to report them missing, but because I know where they are, but they are leaving me out in the cold tonight. No guilt trip. Let's see. So let me see if I will be able to share my screen at this point and it will work. Let me see. Share screen. Share screen. Okay. Oh, it worked. Okay. So I have that. Now we're going to actually, this is credit to our good friends over at 2S True Crime Quarters is the channel. And they have some very good, insightful content over there. I really like the no-nonsense style and the informative stuff that they share on their channel. And let me go to, so we're fair using. We're also going to put this up, True Crime Quarters. And I will, after the live stream, I will put their link in the chat so you can check them out. So here we go.
Search about them. Here we are at the location where they found. Okay, welcome back to 2S, the Horror Quarters podcast.
Thanks, Michael Santana. He is a great guy. Helped me, or gave me permission to use his content today, so I appreciate that. I am going to show that. That's crime. Oh, that's not Crime Vine. Sorry. Show that one. That is True Crime Quarters. If I knew how to do stuff around here, that would be great. But so he just showed the footage. the area where the body of Conner washed up, and that is so horrible. Let me see something really quick here. So there's a little bit of footage, or a little bit of some pictures of Scott Peterson after his arrest and at different points. It looks like there's one picture here where he has orange hair. It looks like he tried to dye it. He was trying to flee at one point after the bodies were discovered at the San Francisco Bay Area, along the shores at different times. When they did, he actually did drive down by the bay where he had been fishing around the time that the bodies were discovered. And I got that information just basically from the detectives after the fact, because I don't think I saw any trial footage about that, but there is some clips of some of the detectives talking about when they were surveilling him. He did they did follow him. He was in a rental car. So they had a trail on him, or a trail. They had a tail, I think. They were tracking him. They were following his whereabouts the whole time. And they were having his mistress. Let's take a look at what she looked like again. Here she is. She actually came forward on her own. A friend of hers had seen a picture of Scott in the news with the story of Laci missing, and let her know, hey, is this the guy that you're dating? Isn't this Scott, the guy that you're dating? And he had told her that he had lost his wife and that it would be his first Christmas without her. They met at a conference. I guess she is a massage therapist, but I think Fresno, and then he's in Modesto, which they're not really near. I don't know how close. They're probably a couple hours away from each other, I think. But a mutual friend of the two of them connected them. And so I think that the person that Amber knew worked with Scott, I think, or had some kind of work connection. And so Amber showed up at this is the story that I heard. Amber showed up at the conference, the fertilizer sales conference. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but that's what he did for work. So it's something related to fertilizer, or maybe farming or something like that. Anyway, that's where they met. I think that could have been right before. I don't have the date, so I'm not a very good investigator, but I don't have the date when they met, but I believe it was around the holidays. So it could have been Thanksgiving time. I'm not sure. Let's see what our next slide shows. Oh yeah. So then I was just going to say, he was seen over by where the bodies did show up. So we're going to go back to our video here really quick. Okay.
For the murder of Laci and for their unborn son, Conner. This all began Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2002. though there is some speculation that the actual murder may have occurred the night before on December 23rd, 2002. The Petersons lived at 523 Covina Avenue in Modesto, California. And probably most of you know enough about this topic. You've probably seen a bunch of different shows and documentaries on it. But I wanted to cover some things about it, some timeline things, and some location visits, of course. We can pick it up on December 23rd, 2002, which was a Monday night. We know that at approximately 5:45 p.m., Scott and Laci went to Salon, where Amy Rocha worked. Amy is Laci's sister. Amy gave...
I just want to say really quick, gosh, I love this footage. I love what he did with this video. It's great work. So go sub up to 2S True Crime Quarters. He has very good production quality. I appreciate that.
Scott a haircut at 5:45. And according to Scott, Laci and him went home. Well, they grabbed a pizza first. They went home and watched The Rookie and went to bed sometime after 10. Here is Salon as it stands today. Based on what I found out, this was the same location as it was back then. If I am wrong about that, please let me know in the comments. And then here we are at Mountain Mike's Pizza, where Scott said he went and picked up a pizza after his haircut. This here is the closest Mountain Mike's to Salon. So I'm guessing this is the one he went to. Here's a layout of some of the key locations as it pertains to the case, just so you can kind of see on a bird's eye view of the spread of the city. And of course, this is as the crow flies. So from Laci's home to Scott's warehouse was approximately 2.7 miles to 3 miles. And from Laci's home to East Loma Park was approximately 0.6 miles. From Scott's warehouse to Salon is approximately 2 miles. And from Salon to Mountain Mike's Pizza is approximately 0.8 miles. So the following day, Christmas Eve 2002, was a Tuesday. And according to Scott's timeline, he said he woke up at about 8 a.m. And between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., him and Laci together watched the Martha Stewart show, where Martha and a guest were preparing a lemon meringue pie of some sort. Between 9:20 and 9:40 a.m., a woman by the name of Kristen Demperwolf was walking her dog, passing 523 Covina Avenue, and this is where she saw Scott's truck backed up into the carport. He was loading up some umbrellas. Scott said good morning to her. She said hello and continued on her walk. At approximately 9:50 to roughly 10:08 a.m., Scott leaves for his warehouse, which is located 3 miles away. At approximately 10:18 a.m., Karen Service, who was a neighbor to the south of the Petersons, noticed that the Petersons' dog Mackenzie was in the front yard with a leash. No one was attending to the dog. Karen walks over, puts the dog back into the courtyard, shuts the gate, and walks back and goes about her business.
There's the oh my gosh, I can't even think of what it's called. The shop. The storage place where Scott kept his boat that he bought, which is interesting because he didn't tell anybody about the boat. He didn't tell his wife about the boat. He didn't tell... Nobody knew about the boat. Not even his buddies. Interesting. It's a little boat. He took it out in the bay. That's very interesting. A little boat, like a pond fishing boat. It looks like a boat. I mean, like a little motor on the back, you know. Perhaps you would go in a lake. I can't imagine going in the bay with that kind of boat, but you know, I don't know. I'm not a fisherman. But also, the other interesting thing is, oh, here, I want to show you guys this picture real quick. So this now I surely hope this is really not the boat. That's his boat, but they made a memorial and put that out there. That's very powerful. It's so powerful. And the little sign there says, "Rot in prison." So imagine, you know, making this slide and going through all of the information that I had in regards to this case, being that it was before social media, which is such a, you know, powerful tool for so many things. You know, it's such a powerful way to get the word out and spread messages and search for people and just educate the public locally and not internationally, but I mean, yeah, that too, right? It's just very powerful. And considering this is before social media, it was in 2003, and yet the people, the community, the public at large was so rallying behind Laci and against Scott. They saw the different interviews. I think it's not very many, but there was one with Diane Sawyer. I'm not sure if this is going to be on this video that I'm showing you, but body language experts have weighed in. I'm no body language expert, but you know, my observation of him giving that interview, gosh, my analysis is it does not look good. Similar to that of Chris Watts, similar to that video of Letitia Stauch, similar to who else did we cover recently? You know, our instincts when we see people, I mean, sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it is difficult to discern and see through people that are lying or that are, you know, especially when they're sociopathic and they can lie so well. And they don't have guilt, you know. Anyway, it's a very these are very interesting interviews. I'm sure that that's what swayed the public, you know, and then the call when Amber Frey decided that she was going to work with the FBI or the police. I don't think it was the FBI, but I'm not quite sure. So shall we go to our video with True Crime Quarters? We'll go ahead and go over there again and see what's up here.
On the night of Christmas Eve, Detective Al Bruchini and Scott went to Scott's warehouse, which is located at 1027 North Emerald Avenue. And initially, Detective Bruchini had to search the warehouse with his headlights, as Scott told him the power was out. Here is footage from the search warrant video. You can see inside of Scott's office here. The computer looks like a futon. And then here is the larger part of the warehouse where there's pallets, there's equipment, merchandise, and the 14-foot boat that was stored in there. This is the boat that Scott hooked up to his truck on Christmas Eve during the day and drove it out to Berkeley Marina Between 10:35 and 10:50, the mailman on Covina Avenue, a guy by the name of Russell Graybill, notices that the gate is open and the dog wasn't barking as usual, the dog being Mackenzie. This is important to note because Laci Peterson, who's Scott's sister-in-law, claims that that's consistent with the gate still being open and Laci being out walking Mackenzie. Approximately 10:45 to 11 a.m.-ish, there's several people in the neighborhood who claim to have seen Laci walking either up and down their street or down at the park at East Liloma Park. At approximately 11:40 a.m., a woman by the name of Diane Jackson, who lived in the area, was passing Scott's house, and directly across the street at 516 Covina Avenue, there was a suspicious van with 3 men standing near it. The Medina family lived across the street, and they were gone for the weekend.
Okay, so for those of you who are just joining us, we are discussing the Scott Peterson case. We have covered quite a lot so far, with the help of our friends over at True Crime Quarters, who does amazing work. I'm going to go ahead and put the link to their YouTube channel in the description after this live stream ends. He does a great job with the production quality. He goes to the actual site and covers, where the body's washed up. He covers, he takes footage of their home that we just saw, the neighborhood, makes us really feel like we are there. There's also some interviews here with the detectives that covered the case, the original detectives from 2002, 2003, that, they're present day, but they're going back in their memory bank and they're recalling all of these things. Scott Peterson was convicted in 2003 of murdering his wife and their unborn child because she was 8 months pregnant. And I believe there was a law that was signed. I believe it was federal, but I'm not sure. And the reason I say that is because there was a clip where it was President Bush who was in the clip, and it looks like he was signing Conner's law. So I think that had something. I think that, anyway, there was a law regarding taking the life of a pregnant woman. You could be charged with, double murder, murmur for YouTube's specifications. So let's go. So anyway, that happened. That's what we're talking about tonight. He is still in prison. He has tried lots of different avenues to overturn the conviction. I don't know if I'll look it up, but I don't know if he got the death penalty, but we know that there's a stay in California. So he's been in prison since 2003. And there's several organizations. I believe the California Innocence Project has been instrumental in trying to work on his behalf to overturn the conviction, finding other evidence. There were hearings to, do that, and to get, I think they wanted the DA to do something. Anyway, so far, nothing's worked. They did find some evidence that they were wanting the DNA to be extracted from and tested. I don't know. As far as I know, he's still in prison, but we'll go to that in a little bit. In the meantime, we're gonna catch up with our friends over here at True Crime Quarters.
And this is going to be important later on once we find out more about the case. At 12:54 p.m., Scott has a stamped receipt with time code from the Berkeley Marina showing that he parked there. He launches his boat and he's out on the water. He said he heads north towards what he called in the police interrogation an island that had like a bunch of trash on it. And there was a sign there that said, "Please do not dump trash here." Well, that island turned out to be Brooks Island. Here is an aerial view of the Bay Area where Scott launched his boat from the Berkeley Marina. As you can see, approximately 2.15 miles away north is where Laci's body was found. And then 0.85 miles northwest of Laci is where Conner was found. Brooks Island from the boat launch is approximately 2.54 miles from the Berkeley Marina where he launched his boat. And this is where Scott said it felt like he was out there about an hour and a half. And that is the island that he recognized and described to detectives. Here we are at the boat launch area where Scott backed his boat into the water here. I don't know exactly what ramp it was, but this is the area where he backed his boat into the water, unhitched it, went and parked his truck, and returned to the boat. Police spoke to a couple of maintenance guys down at Berkeley Marina, and Scott also mentioned these maintenance guys and how they got a good chuckle out of the way he was backing down the trailer into the water. And it is at that point, according to Detective Brocchini, that Scott decided to change his alibi from golfing to fishing because he was spotted by the maintenance men. Now, I don't know how congested the area was on that particular morning, but it was Christmas Eve. And according to the investigation, there were only 3 tickets bought to park there. Now, we were here on a Saturday morning in April. The parking lot was pretty congested. However, as you can see here, nobody was out at the boat launch area. So probably everybody was already out fishing or at restaurants, whatever else they were doing. So it is my guess that it was not congested that morning Scott was there. He went down this channel here and headed north towards Brooks Island, where I think he rolled Laci and Conner over the side of the boat.
Okay, beautiful. I just left a message at home. 2:15. I live in Berkeley. I won't be able to get to Villa Farms to get that basket for Papa. I was hoping you would get the message and go on out there. I'll see you in a bit. We love you. Bye.
We have to discuss this. Oh my gosh. This is horrible. Can you believe that? Can you believe what you just heard? Oh my goodness. Living through love. Did you hear that message? Okay, you guys. He called and left a message on his wife's phone or on his home phone back then. Oh, hey, baby. Okay, and if what we know to be true is really true, if he had unalived her and then he called her after he dumped her in the water to pretend, listen to that voice. Listen to his voice. Okay, hold on. Let me just play that again. Listen.
Okay, beautiful. I just left a message at home. 2:15. I live in Berkeley. I won't be able to get to Villa Farms to get that basket for Papa. I was hoping you would get the message and go on out there. I'll see you in a bit. We love you. Bye.
Oh. So
Scott stops in Livermore and gets fuel, where he calls Laci again. At approximately 4:30 p.m., Scott returns to the warehouse, drops off his boat, then heads home. Once home, he takes his clothes that he's wearing, throws them in the washer, grabs a piece of pizza and some milk, and takes a shower. At 5:17 p.m., He said he called Sharon Rocha and said, hey, is Laci there? Sharon said, no, she is not. And Scott said, well, she's missing. And it's important to note here that Sharon, when she talked about this later, said that if she was the first person Scott called, why would he use the term missing? It's not like he called a bunch of other people and couldn't find her. So he was quick to use that term.
Yeah, I absolutely, this is one of my biggest, like, red flags that nobody else seems to even talk about in these missing people cases. In the beginning, you don't say they're missing. That's not normal vernacular when you just can't find someone, right? If I ever come home from work and let's say my daughter's not there at home, or my husband was supposed to be home, but he's not home, and I expected him home, and I come home and he's not home, I do not say he's missing. I say, oh, he's not home. That's weird. And then if I had to look, search, around, call around, blah, 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 there's the missing, when I would get to the point of referring to his whereabouts as being missing would be after I called the police were over, they had, maybe it was the next day. Then maybe he was missing. He's not missing when I just can't find him, don't know where he is for a little while. I mean, just the term missing is very red flaggish to me.
Missing. At 5:47 p.m., Ron Gransky, who is Laci's stepfather, calls 911 and reports Laci missing. The Modesto police asked that Scott and Sharon meet them at East La Loma Park, and they all met down there at 6 p.m. They then go back to the house on Covina, where Detective Al Burkini shows up. So the lead detective on this was Detective Craig Grogan, and the other two leads were Al Burkini and John Bueller. But the first detective on site was Detective Al Burkini. He went in the house, talked to Scott first. Police bring in the dogs. They sniff things out. The dogs do not go toward.
Okay. Do you guys want to hear the interview? Because I did download it. I do have it. It will just take me a moment. I can stop sharing my screen really fast. Let me check out how to go to doing all this stuff. Let me see. Yeah, so I have the interview. Here it is. And we can give credit to Crime Vine, who I also got permission. Wait, no. Okay, so Shirley, You're Joking wants to watch it too. So let me share my screen here. Okay, let me change the credits. So this is Crime Vine. And they did a great job too. Let's do that one.
On Christmas Eve 2002, Scott Peterson reported his wife, Laci Peterson, missing from their Modesto, California home. At the time, Laci was 8 months pregnant with the couple's unborn son, Conner. What began as a missing persons case would soon become one of the most highly publicized murder investigations in America. Months later, the bodies of Laci and Conner would wash ashore separately along the San Francisco Bay, just miles from where Scott told investigators he had been fishing on the day she disappeared. The footage you're about to watch captures Scott Peterson speaking with detectives during the investigation for the first time. This interview offers a rare look at the statements made by Scott before his eventual conviction for the murders of his wife Laci and his son Conner. Viewer discretion is advised.
Okay. Pretty much got all I'm going to do. Let's just go over what we already talked about so I can make some notes. see if you remember something that you don't, maybe you don't know you remember. So today, just tell me about the morning. Tell me again.
Okay. I don't know what time.
Can you guys hear?
Probably, Laci
Let me
got
know.
up and went and, assumed that she had some show for breakfast. She eats right when she wakes up, otherwise she gets sick because she's pregnant.
I'll turn off the
I laid around in bed longer. I got up at 8 o'clock probably or so.
the
Showered. And, we were watching her favorite show, Martha Stewart. Watched a little bit of that.
You didn't watch the whole thing though?
No.
You remember what part you saw? I mean, I don't know what.
Yeah. Some cooking deal. I don't know. Cookies of some sort. They're talking about what to do with meringue.
And I can't remember, your house, you had the converted garage area, is that your TV room like? Or
Yeah.
Is that where you were then? Okay, did you eat any breakfast?
Yeah, well, true.
Okay, and then, what? When did you realize you were gonna go fishing?
Oh, that was a morning decision. It's either
That was a morning
go play golf at the club or go fishing.
Okay.
Seemed too cold to go play golf at the club, so, yeah, just decided to, 9:30 or whatever than that.
Mhm.
Just told her what she was gonna do for the day and.
Okay, so she told you what she was gonna do for the day?
Yeah.
And what was that?
Take the dog for a walk, and then she's going to the store to buy for Christmas morning breakfast tomorrow. And that was going to be an involved prep. So that was her, just prepping the breakfast. And she's going to make gingerbread cookies for tonight.
What was she momming?
The tile in the entryway area.
The entry of your front door or the entry of your little interior converted?
Well, not the front door, but that back door that we came in.
Right, where the mop was outside of it?
No.
Where your dogs weren't out to your backyard?
Okay, you have the converted garage,
Yeah.
right? Then you have the kitchen,
Yeah.
then you have a room with 2 chairs in it.
Right.
Yeah, that was in the kitchen. I don't know how far she plans to go. She had me put the bucket by the front door for her.
So she asked you to put the mop bucket by the front door?
Yeah, she's, much pregnant, not gonna pick it up or anything, so I filled it up for her. I guess this.
How did you move it back after or when you come home, or how did it get outside? Yeah. So you put it out there?
Dog and cat rented. Yeah, she wasn't about to lift anything heavy.
So when you left, do you remember what she was wearing?
Black pants, white long sleeve top.
The kind of buttons or?
No, just like a long sleeve t-shirt kind of thing, but, didn't say anything on it or.
Jacket or shoes?
No.
No shoes? Do you notice if her jacket was there? Or did she wear it, like if she went walking at 10 o'clock or 9:30?
She just steals my stuff.
She uses your stuff?
Yeah,
Mhm.
doesn't return his stuff, so I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know. She could have had hers or mine, or nothing.
How about shoes? Does she have a certain kind of shoes that she walks in? Or
Yeah, I use a pair of white tennis shoes.
Do you know, did you remember if they were there or not?
The officers and I looked for them in their normal place, which is outside of our wet bar. They were not there, but we didn't look further, so they could be in the house. They weren't where they normally left. You saw mine where those were where they normally keep.
Okay, so then about 9:30 you left.
Mm-hmm.
And you drove your four-door truck. And you went over to your shop?
Right.
What did you do over there?
I assembled my mortiser. You know, the mortiser is it's a woodworking tool to make tables. Maybe you saw it on the trailer there.
Okay.
Yay big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got that, so I assembled it. Checked my email. Sent one email. Then took the boat up and went
Who'd you send the email
to Eric Van Enos, my boss. The happy holiday email. He left me a message on my phone this morning.
Okay, let's weigh in a little bit about what we are hearing from Mr. Scott Peterson. Let's see. Surely you're joking says he does not look worried about his missing pregnant wife. Yeah, he's talking in a very casual way as well. He has body language also kind of, he's leaning back a little bit. He's kind of, I don't know what that, he's got his hand in his pocket. He's leaning back. He's got one leg out a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what that is. But says it's too cold to go golfing, but not too cold to go to the water and be on the boat and fish. Another thing is that is noticeable little info is that he apparently has lures in the boat for freshwater fish, and he's in saltwater. So just some little information. Oh yeah, I wanted to say,
Eric Van Enos? I spelled Enos.
You totally know what he's doing here. He sends an email. That's like an alibi, right? That's like, oh, I'm setting a digital like footprint, right, at a certain time because it has a time stamp. So whatever he's trying to do here, I think that was a purposeful move.
INNIS.
You know his phone number? Sure. Did you tell him about this yet?
No.
Get the 559 in?
No, this is going to be a number in Portugal.
In Portugal? That's where your boss is?
Yeah. To access internationally, dial 011. Country code is 35. The number. That's his phone number.
Does he have a home? Do you have that or
I don't
not?
have a phone number for him.
Do you know what his email was or?
It's E.
Does he live in Portugal?
He
lives there?
Yeah, in Portugal.
Speak English?
Yeah, very well. He's a Belgian guy.
Okay, so you assembled this, what was the thing you assembled called?
Called a mortiser for mortise and tenon joints.
Where'd you get that?
Ordered it online, eBay auction actually.
Is that for home or for work?
Just for home, like woodwork.
You do a little bit of that? Okay, the fax you got, you hadn't got it yet? Or did
Yeah, I
you?
guess not. I don't know.
You can't-
Honestly, I can't remember when I picked it up. I remember that it said the boat was arriving in 26, and I wasn't happy about that, but other than that, it may have been when I got back from the office.
Okay, then you hooked your boat up,
Mhm.
and you know about what time you left Modesto?
Gosh, I don't know. Extrapolate what time I got that deal at noon, is that right?
Yeah, that was, no one.
Which one is it there? You know, it has 2 times?
Oh, okay.
Which one's right?
Tuesday. Time 12:54 on December 21st, $5 expires. Okay. Expires 9 p.m. Tuesday. So you got there at 1 o'clock.
I got there at 1.
Yeah, about 1.
And I imagine it took at least an hour and a half.
Yeah, okay, so then 12, maybe 11:30 about.
Yeah, probably longer than that.
Probably
If you get like 55, that trailer.
Okay, did you drive straight there?
I did.
You stop for lunch?
No.
You buy bait?
Nope, not a bait fisherman.
You buy no lunch? You didn't eat nothing? You didn't take a lunch?
Nothing. I was damn hungry for that pizza when I got home.
Okay, so if you got to about 5 minutes to 1, you get your boat in, how long do you think you stayed in the water?
Felt like an hour and a half or so. But I didn't watch or anything, but let's see if I was getting home at 30. Or 2. I don't know, an hour and a half, I guess, probably accurate.
Did you have a map for that area, or
No.
would you just wing it? So you just, when you got in your boat and you took off, did you go very far, or?
Well, I mean, probably a couple miles. I went north, found like a little island kind of deal there.
Mhm.
Island had a bunch of trash on it. I remember a big sign that said no landing. It looked like some broken piers around it. I just assumed it'd be a decent, shallow area.
Did you troll?
A little bit. I mean, a lot of the reason I went was just to get that boat in the water to see,
Yeah.
Amy, what's going on, Amy? Yeah.
Too bad we can't hear what Amy's saying. That's what's concerning.
Oh, I don't know. Where are you at now? In front of our house? Okay. Yeah, where you're gonna stay at your place, obviously. Where are Nate and Brent going? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah. Can I give you a call back in a while? Thanks, Amy.
Amy, that was Laci's sister.
Different mothers.
Okay, so you fish in 90 minutes, about then what? You go back to the marina, get back in your boat.
Yeah.
You see anybody? You talk to anybody out there?
Talked to a couple guys fishing, asked me, to catch anything, and no, they didn't either. The guys working, fixing, maintenance guys got a good laugh at me trying to back down the trailer.
Okay.
So a couple guys laughing and a couple guys talking about fishing.
Then what? How did you get there?
Highways, you mean?
Yeah.
What's the highway to Oakland? It's 580?
Yeah.
And then you take 80 north, right, to go to like going to Sacramento or.
So you took 580 to 80 north? Okay.
Yeah, and it's like second exit in Berkeley.
Come home the same way?
Second, yeah.
Yeah, stop for gas.
Stop for gas and I guess it's Livermore or Pleasant. Which one's near the Alta Mine?
A little more. Okay. Where'd you stop?
I think it's the Chevron station. Or is it buses around there?
Was that on the way home or the way in there?
Well,
How'd you pay?
credit card.
You have the receipt still?
I didn't get a receipt.
Debit card or credit card?
Debit. Sorry, yeah, I don't know which way they counted debit or credit when you stick it in there.
But it was your bank, it wasn't a Chevron card.
Right, it's my, eBay, ATM, debit, credit card, combo.
You didn't get nothing out of the store? Okay, when you got in the car, when did you call? You said?
I called Laci just as I was leaving the marina.
Home
Told her
phone?
where I was, home and mobile.
What's your home number? You left a message?
Yes.
And then what's your mobile?
402.
Do you know her password?
8184.
So if you called her number and it would tell you, does it tell you what time the call comes in?
Timestamps. Try it out. Yesterday at 2:16.
Okay. Yeah, repeat it.
I think 9.
I wish you could see
Yeah.
that blank.
How many messages she had? Two?
2 new ones.
Okay, the other, I'll say, it was probably your dad or somebody.
Do you care if I fast forward a little bit? See how long it is. It's an hour. I haven't even looked for an hour.
So that fax came in and it's 3-hour time difference.
Yeah, New Jersey is 3 hours.
Okay, we're gonna take a break from that. we are going to do a little bit of, we're going to go back a little bit to the other channel that we were watching. Let's take a look in a book. Just kidding. So what are you guys doing? What are you thinking? What are you feeling about this case? He looks pretty comfortable there, sitting in the detective's in the room there. Let me see. He doesn't seem distraught, does he? Let's see. So there's what we just watched. Oh, crud. I'm not sharing my screen. Hold on a second. Hold your horses. So that's what we just watched. And now we're watching another creator.
Police bring in the dogs. They sniff things out. The dogs do not go towards the park. They go away from the park, suggesting that Laci never headed to the park. A lot of people don't really believe in the dog sniffing technique, but it is definitely one that is used by law enforcement. So initially during the police interrogation, Scott said, okay, he'll take a polygraph. He then changed his mind after speaking to his father, Lee, and police felt he wasn't being 100% cooperative, so they made a move. They released a description of Scott's truck, which was a 2002 Ford 150, bronze in color, and a photo of the boat that he took to the marina just to see if anybody noticed him down there or noticed any kind of suspicious behavior while he was there.
Okay, so if you're just joining us, we are covering Scott Peterson and the murder of his wife, Laci Peterson, and their unborn baby Conner, who he was also charged with the murder of. They were both from Modesto, or that's where they were living, in Modesto, California. They were a newlywed couple living in a modest neighborhood, middle-class neighborhood, with a cute house and a cute little pool and a dog and a picket fence. And by all intents and purposes, they appeared to be a great couple with no previous history of violence or ABUSE. Neither had a criminal record, issues with DRUGS or substances. They didn't live high risk. Lifestyles. Nevertheless, she went missing on Christmas Eve, 2002, and the Modesto Police Department and Stanislaus County Sheriffs engaged in searching the ground and the waterways, and they put out dogs to search for her, and they couldn't find her. And Scott, we just finished. If you want to rewind later, if you're on replay, or if you come in late, you can rewind this. And we did cover a little bit of the interview with the police with Al Burkini. So that's where we're at. And we're just kind of going back through. They searched his shop, which stored his boat, where he says he was fishing on the from the Berkeley Marina in the San Francisco Bay on Christmas Eve morning, when Laci was last seen by him. She was headed out for a walk with the dog. Anyway, that's where we're at.
And now we get to the Amber Frey part of the case. Amber Frey, of course, was Scott's mistress, and they had just met on November 20th, the previous month. If it wasn't that long standing at all. But it appeared that the two of them, Scott and Amber, really were into each other. Scott, of course, did not let on that he was married, and Amber had no clue about it. She was introduced to Scott by her friend by the name of Sean Sibley. Scott had went down to Anaheim for a convention. Sean Sibley suggested, hey, I got a friend for you. She introduced Scott to Amber Frey. They met. They went out a few times. And, of course, they went to a Christmas party where those famous photographs show Amber in a red dress. And that's interesting how that came to be. Amber didn't watch TV much back then. She didn't really know what was going on. There was no Twitter, obviously, no social media the way it is now. She had a friend who was a police officer, a guy by the name of Richard, and I believe he was a Fresno police officer. Amber Frey is from Fresno. That's where she was living at the time. So her friend said, hey, I need to talk to you. Can I over an article? And that's when it started to click. Amber calls the Modesto Police Department and said, hey, I am dating a guy by the name of Scott Peterson. I have his birth date. Can you give me the birth date of the Scott Peterson in question in your case? For whatever reason, miscommunication, they weren't able to make that work. So Amber called back the following day. She was persistent. When she called back the following day, Detective Albuquerque happened to be standing by the clerk who was taking the call. Long story short, from that point, Detectives Bueller and Bruchini head straight to Fresno, to Amber's house, to interview Amber and Sean Sibley. And when they got there, they split the two of them up and did separate interviews. Amber had a lot of little trinkets, proof of her dating Scott. She had like wine corks, receipts, this type of thing. And that was of great interest to the detectives. After the interview and after they were done, the detectives were like, we're going to go grab a bite. You want to go with us? And Amber and Sean went with them. Amber at that point disclosed that, can we stop at, it was either a Walgreens or a CVS, but she had developed pictures of a Christmas party that Scott attended with her. And the detectives were like, okay, let's go do that. So they went and got the photos, and the photos came in twos. And it was in that pack of photographs that the famous pictures of the two of them at the Christmas party emerged for the first time. Right after that, they go to Radio Shack and get a device to plug into Amber's phone to start recording these phone calls when Scott calls. And he turns out he ended up calling right there. And that's when the first call was recorded. In total, there was approximately 29 hours of recorded phone calls between Amber and Scott. Detective Bueller, I've seen a few of his interviews, and he gives a lot of concise, very important information regarding the case. And he was saying that somehow the National Enquirer had got a hold of the Christmas pictures, and they were getting ready to drop it soon, to the media, to the press, to the world. And it was at that point that the detectives decided, hey, we got to make a move before they do so, before the families find out on TV. Two detectives went down to San Diego to speak with Scott's family. Detective Bueller and Detective Bruchini called in Ron Gransky and Sharon Rocha and sat them down to tell them the information of Scott's affair. And it was at that point that Sharon put her head in her hands and said, "Why did he have to kill her?" January 24th, 2003 was the famous Amber Frey press conference, where she pretty much told the world who she was and that she had no clue he was married. Getting back to the timeline of December 23rd, Sharon said that at approximately 8:30 p.m., Laci spoke with her, and they discussed Christmas Eve dinner plans. Between 8:30 and 10:30, Scott said after Sharon's phone call, they continued watching football, then watched the movie The Rookie. Scott estimated they went to bed around 10:30 and that Laci wore his blue pajama bottoms to bed. Amy Rocha, who is Laci's half-sister, she identified both the pants and the blouse that Laci wore to Salon on the evening of the 23rd. Laci was not found in that same outfit, so somewhere in between there she changed. The house across the street, 516 Covina Avenue, was burglarized during this time, and it threw a little bit of confusion into the case. Diane Jackson was a neighbor that was driving by and saw three men standing next to a van on the 24th. This led to some speculation, especially by Scott's side of the family, that the burglars abducted Laci and ultimately killed her and Conner. According to police, the house was burglarized on Christmas Day, the 25th. A man by the name of Stephen Todd broke in and couldn't get everything out of there that he wanted on his bike. He had left a few items there, and he went and talked to a man by the name of Donald Pierce. Stephen was living behind Donald Pierce's mother's house. The two of them returned on the 26th and went in through the back side of the house. They did mention that they saw the media there, but was wondering what was going on. They adamantly denied having anything to do with the murder. They both willingly took polygraphs to get as far away from this thing as they could. Turned out they had nothing to do with Laci's disappearance. According to Detective Bueller, it's very uncommon that two guys that were kind of feeding their drug habits, burglarizing homes, would turn into killers that abduct pregnant women and kill them. On top of that, there is a reward to find Laci for $500,000. It's hard to believe that these two guys wouldn't flip on one another for $500,000. The investigation of the boat at the warehouse is very telling to me. Detective Bikini mentioned that when he searched the boat, there was pliers that had hair that was consistent with Laci's hair. There was also an anchor with no rope, and that's significant because if you're going to go fishing and you're going to use the anchor, how do you pull it back up?
This is super important. He was making anchors. Perhaps there's implications that he was making an anchor or two or three or whatever for other things, for maybe for Laci, but not for his boat. I don't know. Anyway, it's very scary and sad.
Here is an evidence photograph of Scott and Laci's bed. And the key point about this particular scene is the divot here at the end of the bed that is consistent with someone laying back on it. According to Scott, Laci made the bed that morning. And another key point is that Scott's blood, a few drops, were found next to this divot. It doesn't mean that he killed her there, but it is consistent with him either being on top of her or behind her, potentially strangling her or smothering her. And in her fight back against him, she could have scratched his hand leading to blood dropping down on the comforter. Now remember that during his interview with Gloria Gomez, he does mention and show Gloria his hand, where he said he actually bled that day. Now he gave other reasons as to why he bled. He said he works on farms and with machinery, but he does show his hand at that point, so he does admit to being cut that day, Christmas Eve. He showed her his cut, but there's a moment where his phone's ringing in the kitchen behind him. And he says, hey, do you want me to turn that off? He gets up, looks for the phone, and turns it off. And at that point, Laci wasn't found. So it could have been police or family members or somebody saying, hey, we found her. But the sense of urgency, in my opinion, wasn't there for Scott at any point during this investigation publicly. Once the bodies were discovered, initially the police were going to wait for DNA test results to make sure that those bodies were in fact Laci and Conner. As they were tracking Scott down in San Diego, he was driving erratic, fast, so they decided to go ahead and pull him over and arrest him there. The famous photos, you can see his hair was bleached, his goatee was grown out and bleached. Inside of the vehicle, he had his brother's ID, just short of $15,000 in cash. There was camping gear, snorkeling gear. It appeared, and it was consistent with him maybe trying to flee to Mexico. Sharon Rocha made an interesting point in an interview, an interesting observation. She said she thinks that Scott at some point was backed into a corner by Sean Sibley, who said, you better tell Amber about your wife, and this was December 6th. December 7th, Scott searches the internet about ocean tides and currents. December 8th, Scott searched the internet for a boat. December 9th, he bought a boat and told Amber he lost his wife. Scott had went down to Anaheim for a convention, and either he had already known Sean Sibley or met her there. But anyways, she decided that she was going to try to hook him up with her friend Amber Frey, and that's how that started. Detective Bueller made another great point. Scott said that he had told Laci about the affair with Amber Frey. But if you think about it, just 2 weeks prior, if he's going to tell his wife he had an affair, and then on Christmas Eve, he's going to say, hey, I'm going to go fishing. And Laci's going to be okay with that as she stays home and bakes cookies. It just doesn't seem logical.
Yeah, that's exactly what I heard in the chat. I believe it was on Facebook. Who raise your hand as a pregnant mom or pregnant wife if you would be cool with that? Oh, yeah, it's Christmas Eve. And not only that, but she's supposedly baking. That was her plan for the day, like to finish up some pies or something. And then he's whatever going to go fishing with a boat that she didn't even know that he had, and he doesn't tell her. Because I guarantee you, if that was my husband and I was pregnant and my husband was and I was getting ready for the holidays and we had gathering plans with family that evening, and he was supposed to pick up something for me, you think that I'm going to be okay? I'm pregnant. I'm trying to rush around, finish up things to do that I have to do for the evening meal, for the family gathering. And he has a task. He's given one task, apparently, to pick up something for Papa, is what he says in that message. Oh, I'm not going to be able to pick it up. I've been out fishing with a boat that I didn't even tell you about. Oh my goodness. You think that she's going to be okay with that? And he's like, okay, sweetie, lovey, la, la, la. Anyway.
And why he lied about telling Laci about that affair, I guess we'll never know. There's no need to lie about it. This was a very interesting case, very tragic, of course, a tough one to cover, but I wanted to cover it and learn more about it. I want to thank you again for joining me on another true crime episode. I appreciate the time, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks, True Crime Quarters. We appreciate ya. I think the only thing that I want to know is that she didn't know what happened. Gosh, how heartbreaking. That's Sharon Rocha. That's Laci's mom. I think what she means is she's hoping that Laci was naive through it all and didn't realize that he was a monster. She was just hoping that her daughter was protecting herself. Let's see what else he has up here. There she is as a baby. So it looks like that's, I think his name is Michael Santana. So I think he's the producer. He's a creator that is the host of the True Crime Quarters. So thank you so much for watching with us and for learning about this case. I'm going to skip over to, let me see. I'm going to stop sharing that screen because I do want to look into really quick some of the research I did earlier about the case related to, so I'm going to read a little bit about the evidence that we went over in more of a video format or a documentary format. I'm just going to lay out the timeline and just leave this for you guys to think about until we meet again, and see what you guys think, and leave in the chat, your comments or your ideas, what stands out to you. So Tuesday, December 24th, 2002 is the official day of the disappearance. At 8:30 a.m., Scott claims that he last sees Laci at their home in Modesto, California. She is supposedly preparing to mop the floors and walk the dog. She's wearing black maternity pants and a white long-sleeved shirt with flowers on it. At 9:30, Scott logs into his office computer to check emails and look up boat information. These actions are time-stamped by his workplace's servers. At 10 a.m., Scott leaves a voicemail for Laci, saying he's headed to Berkeley Marina to fish. At 10:18, neighbor Karen Service finds Mackenzie, that's their dog, wandering outside with a muddy leash and returns him to Peterson's backyard. At 10:30 a.m., Scott's cell phone pings a tower near Richmond area, consistent with the drive to the marina. At 10:45 a.m., that's 15 minutes later, Mike Chiavetta sees Mackenzie out alone outside. At 12:54 p.m., a parking receipt timestamp shows Scott arrives at the Berkeley Marina and launches his boat. He claims he goes fishing for sturgeon. Oh my gosh. In that boat, you're going to fish for sturgeon. Okay. That's really unlikely. I mean, here, let's take a look again. Let's just take a look really quick. Okay, that boat is going to tip over. Sturgeon are big. Okay, anyway. Sorry, I just can't believe he should have thought about that. He should have thought more about that. Okay, and the lures that he had, I think, were fresh water. Ow, my back. Okay, sorry, I have a back. I hurt my back. Okay, earlier I hurt my back. Let's see. Okay, so he says at 2:15, Scott leaves a voicemail for Laci saying, "Hey, beautiful, it's 2:15. I'm leaving Berkeley." What time are their dinner plans? What time? Usually people do early Christmas Eve dinner. So he's leaving Berkeley. It's 90 miles away from whatever. It's rude that he went fishing. Okay, at 2:30, Scott washes his clothes and showers. What? So he says that's weird. Okay, that's weird. So he leaves a voicemail at 2:15 saying he's leaving Berkeley, but he's able to get home in 15 minutes and wash his clothes and showers, according to his statements. Anyway, that's weird. At 3:45 to 4:15, okay, so he's home, he takes a shower, and he washes his clothes. So it's 2:30. So about an hour and 15 minutes later, he calls Sharon, Laci's mom, and asks if Laci is there. And she says no. He begins to grow concerned and calls around. By 5:15, Laci is reported missing to the Modesto Police Department by her stepfather, Ron Gransky. At 5:30, police arrive at the Peterson home and begin questioning Scott and searching the area. They find Laci's purse and keys and sunglasses still at the house. Her car is also parked in the driveway. Okay, that sounds so much like Shanann Watts, right? Who also has a husband who admitted to unaliving her. Okay, sorry, again, my back is bothering me and I'm sitting on a stool and it's not very comfortable. Let's see. At late evening, authorities, family, friends, and neighbors began a widespread search for Laci, focusing on the neighborhood, nearby parks, and waterways. So the next day is Christmas Day, and family and friends gather at Sharon Roach's home for Christmas dinner, and Laci doesn't appear, and her absence deeply alarms the family. There are observations The local news outlets begin covering the story. Scott appears in some interviews and speaks to reporters, stating that he has no idea where Laci is. Let's see, then the day after, and then Scott starts to give interviews, and then there is an interesting, there's a candlelight vigil on New Year's Eve for Laci. Let's put this out there. Even though that's not the candlelight vigil, but there is a creepy phone call that gets recorded that is with his mistress, Amber Frey, and Scott. She agrees to record a phone call. And I guess she ends up recording like 29 hours of phone calls between her and Scott, because she finally, I don't remember, I think she confronts him on the phone call. So we might revisit this depending on if my sisters in crime decide to join me maybe tomorrow night or the next night, where we can get together again and we can cover this case. We can maybe find the recordings of those phone calls. I think that would be great. Anyway, Amber Frey does come forward. She's 27 also, and she's from Fresno. She contacts the Modesto Police Department, and she tells them that she had been dating Scott since November 20th, which I was right. I was just trying to remember with the details that I knew. But that is consistent with that information that I'm reading right now. She says that he told her that he was single and that he was a widower because he had lost his wife. And that was in November, so obviously she was still not missing at that point. So she begins secretly recording the phone calls at the request of the police, and they just stack up the evidence against him. He's not looking too good in their eyes at this point. When the parents find out, when Laci's parents find out, excuse me, that about the affair, I'm sure, which any parent would be, immediately your heart sinks, not only because of the infidelity, but that then there becomes a motive. Then everything shifts in your mind, in your heart. This person that you believe your daughter loved and loved your daughter, and now your daughter's missing. There's a complete shift in everything. So we will continue this, I do believe, because we're in December now. It's just December in the investigation, and we have until April. So to figure out to get the trial and everything started, and the remains and the identification and all of that. So we'll see what we can find between now and then. In the meantime, I'm going to bid you farewell. We're going to come back at this. We'll close it up. We'll say goodnight because it's getting late. I have work tomorrow. But I wish you all well. Thanks for joining. And thanks for calling. Bye, sisters. If you're listening from afar, I missed you tonight. Good night, everybody. Good night. Let's see what we can do here with our outro. Actually, I'm going to play this one. joining. Thanks for calling. God bless everybody.
Sisters on the hunt, peace and truth from lies, clues in the silence under stormy skies. We don't always agree, but the thrill never dies. Different states yet together in focus, chasing shadows and breaking chains, digging through evidence and cold case files. Sisters in crime.
La, 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 la.
Sisters in crime. Sisters in Three sisters on the hunt, peace and truth from lies, clues in the silence under stormy skies. We don't always agree, but the thrill never dies. Different states yet together in focus, chasing shadows and breaking chains, digging through evidence and cold case files. Sisters in crime.
Thank you so much for joining. Good night. God bless.
golden sunlight. If I'm going with you, I know we'll get to the other side. Sinking in, I know this feels right. Catching a breeze.